Hi, good evening everyone. Hope all of you are doing good in this new year. First of all, thank you so much for your response on my first video on VAT, and also thank you for those who have approached me for VAT consultation and advices. This is my second video and the topic I've chosen is tax invoices. Today we are on the 6th day of VAT implementation in UAE, and I'm sure by now most of you have come across tax invoices. The reason why I have chosen the topic is that I have come across many tax invoices which are not fully in compliance with the VAT law. The Article 76 of the Decree Law and Article 25 of the Tax Procedure Law have clearly mentioned the administrative penalties for non-compliance with the VAT law. It can be at a range starting from AED 500 to 3 times of the tax amount. Article 65 of the Decree Law and 59 of the Executive Regulation clearly mention the contents of a tax invoice. Actually, there are two types of tax invoices which can be issued. One is a normal tax invoice and the other one is a simplified tax invoice. The cases where a normal tax invoice is issued is when a registrant making a taxable supply to another registrant, and where a simplified tax invoice is issued when a registrant making a taxable supplies to a non-registrant, or if he is making a taxable supply to a registrant for a consideration which is less than 10,000 AED. So now let's discuss on the contents of a normal tax invoice. Here it goes. First one is, it should clearly mention the name, the word tax invoice on it. Number 2, the name, address and the TRN number of the registrant who is making the supply should be mentioned in the tax invoice. Number 3, the name, address and the TRN number of the recipient who is a registrant should be mentioned. Number 4, the tax invoice number should be in a sequential order or it should be unique. Number 5, the date of invoice should be mentioned. Number 6, the date of supply. If it is different from the date of invoice, then it should be mentioned clearly in the invoice. Number 7, the description of goods or services should be mentioned. Number 8, the unit price, the quantity, the rate of tax and the amount payable should be mentioned in the tax invoice. Number 9, if there is any discount, then the amount of discount should be clearly mentioned in the invoice. Number 10, the gross amount payable in AED should be mentioned in the invoice. Number 11, if there is an exchange rate which is applied where the currency is converted from another currency, then the exchange rate should be mentioned in the invoice. And number 12, in some special conditions, a buyer is required to issue a tax invoice, and in that case, a statement showing that the buyer is required to issue to account for the tax, and also a reference to the decree law provision should also be mentioned in the tax invoice. Now let's discuss on the contents of a simplified tax invoice. It is very simple. There are only 5 contents as per the law. The first one is the same as the normal tax invoice. It should contain the word tax invoice. Number 2, it should contain name, address and the TRN number of the registrant who is making the supply. In this case, the name and address and TRN number of the recipient cannot be mentioned because mostly the recipient will be a non-registrant. Okay, so it cannot be mentioned. So, and the third one is date of issue of the invoice. Fourth one is description of goods or services. And 5, the total consideration and the tax amount charged should be mentioned in the invoice. So it is very simple. Only 5 contents are there for the simplified tax invoice, and the other one, a normal tax invoice, has got many more contents because it is issued to a registrant to another registrant. That's why. Okay. And one more thing is that if you are dealing with zero rated supplies, it is not necessary that you should issue a tax invoice. You can go with a normal invoice also. Okay. And there are many more provisions relating to the tax invoices, like if you are supplying to another implementing state, or if you are supplying more than one components and so on in the VAT decree law. So if you need more assistance on this, you can inbox me here, or you can even WhatsApp me at my number 0585020478. Thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.